Ellie, ED, and my magazine is called Indigo. In what ways does your media product use, challenge, or develop the forms and conventions of other media products? Well, it is pretty much, it follows it completely, I would think, because it's got the masthead, cover lines, although not that many. It's got a selling line, the price and barcode, which are essential, and it follows the left-third rule slightly because there's not really much going on the other side. And there's also a big main picture, which all magazines seem to follow as a general rule. My contents page was quite simple. I didn't want it to be too complicated because all contents pages seem to be quite easy to follow, so everyone knows how to work their way around the magazine. So I made sure to make it quite bold, so everyone could see each section. And I didn't include a message from the editor because I thought it would just make it a little bit too messy and it wasn't essential. And I added a issue number and date because they are, I think, important to make it look more professional. My double page spread was I wanted to keep with the conventions by having a picture on one side that was a lot bigger. Then it sort of is the most important thing to drag people in to sort of read it. And then I did everything in columns, and I had a really big title, so it sort of dominated it, and it makes it look more professional, I think. Yeah. How does your media product represent different social groups? Well, because my magazine was aimed at indie music lovers, I wanted it to sort of be like the genre, so I wanted it to be sort of fun, not taking itself too seriously, but then at the same time it has got sort of a serious thing about the music, it's all about the music. So the first picture I had on my magazine was quite a striking image of quite dominant, they were really serious, but then on the inside there are a lot more images that have more fun, sort of a fun element to them, so it brings in both.
Do you think the colours on the front page helped as well?
Yeah, I do. I think they helped to give a sort of there is a bit of brightness in there, but they're also kind of turned down as well, just to make sure. Yeah, and the fonts kind of helped as well because the masthead had quite an old school sort of font, but then the rest were easy to read but not too conventional. I don't know, it was a little bit unconventional just to give it a little quirky edge. What kind of media institution might distribute your magazine and why? I think that any big store that sold a lot of magazines would probably have it, with a big selection you get in Tesco's or Morrison's or even WH Smith's, they would have it. But I also think that specialist music stores like HMV would probably sell it, and even newsagents, because I would want to compete with Kerrang or Q, so hopefully in the choice in a section you'd want that.
Is that why you've chose Bauer to distribute?
Yeah, I chose Bauer to distribute it. Who would be your audience for your media product? I was aiming at a magazine for about 16 to 25, and it was meant for both male and female readers who are interested in the new indie rock styles. But I wanted to have it as a magazine based more around new bands, so people that hadn't really got to know indie that much could get into it, but also have some old bands in there, so people that had been following indie for a long time could still enjoy it as well as other people could. So, yeah. How did you attract your audience? Well, I did a survey, and 70% of my audience wanted lots of big pictures, and afterwards I did another one, and 80% thought this requirement was filled, which I did it all on
So you did a survey before you produced the magazine?
Yeah.
And then you did another survey after you produced the magazine?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I asked if they liked the finished product, and 90% said it was either good or excellent, and I asked, and they thought the price was reasonable. I wanted to make sure that it would be a magazine that people would recognise as an indie magazine, so I was quite happy when all my audience did think it had turned out that way. So I think it appeals to the intended audience. what have you learned about technologies when constructing this product? Oh, I learned all about Photoshop and how you could use brushes and to liven up like a boring background, because I'd never known you could do that before, so that was really good. And I liked how I could use layers more effectively, because before I just sort of added them in randomly, and then as I went on I realised that you could use them to your advantage. And I learned how to use Issue and SurveyMonkey, which were new to me until this year.
How did you find working with Blogger? Because obviously all your work was published to Blogger as opposed to a traditional art book.
Yeah. I felt that it was a lot easier, it was a lot more organised, and you could just sort of do it whenever it suited you, and it was much quicker. So yeah, I really liked using that. I had never used Blogger before either, so it was quite a good learning curve as well. Looking back on the preliminary task, what do you feel that have you learned in the progression of your final task? Oh no, can't read. Okay. I think, like before, I had really no idea of how to use Photoshop at all. So it came out okay, but it was lacking in some style areas and very plain sort of backgrounds, and the photos probably not big enough. And I learned how to make a magazine look a lot more credible. So, you know, it had all the conventions that you need. And I think the content is a lot better as well, because I researched like a lot deeper into the music magazine. Yeah, and that's my magazine. The end.
Thanks very much. One quick question. In terms of your favourite effects or filters or tools in Photoshop, what will be your top 2 favourites that you really took you by surprise and you used and really enjoyed using?
I really did like the brushes. They were my favourite. I mean, like any background you could just change. You could change the colour of them. You could change the size. That was really useful. And I'd say I quite liked all the saturation ones as well, because it helped liven up pictures, because some pictures are okay, and then when you just alter them slightly colour-wise, they're suddenly a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.